Liberal Dan Radio presents
Fat Man Rant.
You have a lot of people in the media and a lot of politicians who were shocked and surprised at the ruling that came down in Alabama. That all of a sudden, now in vitro fertilization is under threat in Alabama because they now consider the petri dish embryos to be the same thing as embryos inside of a womb. But all of those people who are shocked and surprised, be they people in the media or be they people who are politicians, just need to resign because they're useless. I've been dealing with these people for years. I've been arguing with these people for since like 2004, maybe even earlier. When I first started really getting in, maybe even 2000, when I first started getting into politics and I first started debating people when it comes to issues like abortion. And I got real deep into the abortion discussions with these people. I knew since 2000 that these people were not only against abortions like late-term abortions and second trimester abortions or just abortions in general, but that these people oppose birth control pills, they oppose the morning after pill, they oppose abortion pills, and they oppose in vitro fertilization. And I would ask these people in these debates for years and years and years, why are you opposed to in vitro fertilization? These people are trying to have a kid. Isn't your whole thing that you want babies born? These people are trying to have babies. You're against these people having babies? Well, in part of in vitro fertilization, you end up discarding the embryos, and that's killing the embryos. Right? But let's say these people have like endometriosis, right? I'm telling these people. So if they're trying through natural processes to try and have a baby, they might, keep creating an embryo, and then it'll discard and discard and discard. And you might discard an embryo every month. More than what normally happens, because the normal embryo discardation rate, that's the right word, is about 30%. And that's a conservative estimate. So like created embryos will just not attach. But when it comes to people who are having issues getting pregnant, it's more. And so I ask these people, so you want these people to just keep trying it naturally, knowing full well that they're just going to have these embryos be discarded, where they could otherwise try it with a doctor where they might have more success and might have less embryos be discarded overall? Well, yes, because it's natural, so it's God's will. It's not a doctor doing it. Like, if you really view the embryo as a child, if you put a child in a situation where there was a natural 30% chance that child would die, that's child endangerment. You would go to prison, regardless of whether or not the child died or not. You'd go to prison. It's child endangerment. So that's proof it's not a child. And then I always bring up the typical argument of, let's say you're in a room in a hospital or whatever, and there's a freezer to your left on wheels, and there's a cart on the right with an infant. And all of a sudden a fire alarm goes out. You can only push one of these carts to safety because there's a fire in the building. Do you push out the freezer with 1,000 embryos, or do you push out the infant in the cart? You can only push out one. Nobody's saying that they're going to push out the cart. Everyone's going to push out the infant, which automatically tells you that the infant clearly is the baby and the embryos are not. Because if the embryos were babies, you would save the 1,000 of them. But no, you would save the infant. Because, most people are not monsters. Well, some are, but even the most ridiculous pro-life people would immediately go save the infant first. But again, they don't want to hear that. Because all common sense or logic or reason that they might have ever had just goes out the window when you think about the embryos as babies. It's absurd. But again, I've been arguing with these people. I've been talking and discussing these issues with these people for over 20 years. These people have felt this way for a very long time. This is nothing new. They've been against in vitro fertilization forever. Ever since Roe v. Wade, ever since it became a thing, they've been against it. So if you're all of a sudden now shocked, I can understand maybe a layperson being like, oh, this is kind of weird. But if you're in the media reporting on this, or if you're a politician feigning that you're shocked and horrified of, no. Dummy. This is nothing new. This has always been the end game for them. They've always wanted to ban IVF. They've always wanted to ban every single thing that helps people have say over their own reproduction. Whether it's birth control pills, whether it's IVF, whether it's abortion, whether it's the morning after pill, whether it's mifepristone. They're always going to use the government to prevent you from having your say as to whether or not you're going to have a kid or not. Whether or not it's to help you have a kid or to not have a kid. They're going to use the government to interfere. Because they don't want you to have autonomy over what you do with your own body. It's one of the reasons why this upcoming election is vitally important. Why people can't just sit home. Why people can't just, say, oh, they're the same. Why people, at least in states that matter. If you live like in Massachusetts, you live in Louisiana, doesn't matter. If you're upset with Biden for whatever reason, or for known reasons, fine. Massachusetts is going for Biden. Louisiana is going for Trump. Nothing we can do about it. Done. But in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, those states matter. And if you're going to sit there and you're going to put people at risk because you're mad at Biden, I have problems. And there's going to be another rant about that in a second.